Welcome to A View from the Summit, where we explore the unique relationships between animals and humans, whether it's an Olympic partner or couch buddy, a working companion or unique pet, a world champion or someone you think the world of. Join us for a look at animals in our lives. Brought to you by Summit Animal Health. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of View from the Summit. And today, well, we flew the coop, but it may have been a mistake a long, long time ago. And we're going to be visiting with people that take feathered friends under their wings and try to make a difference. But first, I get to introduce my favorite co-host and yours, I hope, Robin Benson, who's way up there in the north, having just had 150 calves born on her place, and she was at every birth as the midwife. How goes the birthing, Robin?
Hey, Steve. Hey, everyone. Thanks for jumping in with us. And it's going well. We have one left who has yet to calve, and it's been going well. So we are super grateful for a good season. We've had lots of rain, which we needed, but timing maybe wasn't our choice, but that's okay. And hopefully my signal holds out because it's blowing. The trees are sideways right now. The storm blowing in. That should be all right. But animals are definitely all we do every day. Well, my daughter's feral, so she counts. But we homeschool, we have a working cattle ranch, we have lots of kinds of animals. And that's one of the main reasons this podcast got started, one of the many, I should say. And featuring animals, our lives are surrounded by animals, and we know the difference and impact they made in our lives. And we love featuring stories and hearing stories about animals that have made an impact for others and people who have taken their connection with animals and spread that impact even further. And I'm really excited for today. We have all kinds of critters on our place, but pigeons are not one of them. So I always learn from everybody who joins us, and it's so fun because animals just make our life better. So Steve, tell us about more about what we're going to hear today.
I'm going to tell you about Palomacy. Elizabeth founded this organization years ago. I'm not quite sure, but it's been several. And she did it because there was an injustice that had been done. And if you consider that if you took your little wiener dog or your little chihuahua or even your larger dog and put that dog out in the forest and expected it to fend for itself, it wouldn't, it would, it just, it couldn't do it because the wildness had been bred out of it. The instinct to be with people and to find the resources and their sustenance was focused on people. And so that same thing, believe it or not, happened to the lowly pigeon that people see and drive by on city streets and around the country. So Elizabeth, welcome to the show. We also have Asher. Asher is, say, hey, Asher, say hi, Asher, so that they get to see you. Say hi vocally. There you go. There's Asher. He's in middle school. Where are you in middle school, Asher?
Eighth grade.
Eighth grade. Okay. Where's your middle school? Where does it reside, or where is it
Yeah,
located?
well, the location.
Oh, in the Mission District of San Francisco.
In the Mission District of San Francisco. And he's on because that middle school has a pigeon team that takes care and learns about pigeons and caring for things. You have a pair of pigeons, right? And you brought, who'd you bring today? Tell us about this bird.
I brought Orville.
Tell us about
Orville's
Orville.
hanging out. He's busy being
Yeah,
a little shy.
very shy. Orville is a bird that we are fostering from Palomacy, who I think self-rescued himself. Is that correct, Elizabeth?
Orville and Orville's mate Wilbur are actually what we call oops babies. So they were hatched by a pair of our rescued pigeons. They're not supposed to be here. That's something we work really hard not to let happen. But when you have 250 birds in your foster care, every once in a while, they beat us. And so the eggs hatched.
So, Elizabeth, tell us who you have and tell us why you started this journey to save pigeons. What was the attraction? What happened?
So this right here, look how lovely she is. She's making amazing eye contact with you all. I think she's listening to every word. This little one is named Nilla, like a Nilla wafer. And here she is, she's wearing her pigeon pants. She's got her Adopt Me Palomacy pants on. And Nilla is exactly the kind of bird that Palomacy was started to help. We started this 17 years ago. Most people aren't aware that in addition to the wild pigeons, the feral pigeons, there is a whole, there's actually 300 species, or no, sorry, 300 breeds of domesticated pigeons, homing pigeons, fantails, rollers, racing homers, king pigeons, and 295 others. And I was really surprised to learn this. I didn't know it. I love animals and I knew a lot about animals. And so when I started volunteering at the shelter and met domestic pigeons, I was surprised that I hadn't heard about them. And what happens is they get hurt, they get lost, and they're treated as if they're disposable. And that's why I ended up starting this rescue, because they're not disposable. And just like the example that you gave with a domestic dog in the forest that can't survive, these domestic pigeons, when they're out by themselves without human support, they can't survive either.
Well, but where did that come from? I mean, how did you that notion or that thought didn't spring fully formed into your mind, did it? I mean, was there an experience?
Yeah, not at all. In fact, it was the last thing I mean, I always say I'm an accidental pigeon rescuer. I started volunteering at the city animal shelter, and I was working in what's called the smalls or exotics room, where they have the rabbits and the guinea pigs and parrots and snakes and hamsters and the other animals that end up in city shelters that aren't the dogs and cats. And I was surprised to discover, along with those animals, were domestic pigeons. And unfortunately, the domestic pigeons weren't getting adopted. Shelter wasn't really set up or prepared to find homes for them. And they were just being euthanized. And when I met one who had been somebody's pet, I was blown away truly by how emotional, she was she was really responsive. She was really sweet. Despite her circumstance of being in an unfamiliar shelter and away from her people and everything, she was so good-natured and so willing to be friends. I was just blown away. So I said, well, I have to, this pigeon is clearly an ideal pet. So I'm going to find her a home. And so I did, and got her a great home. But then there was the next one that came in, and the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. Yeah. These guys are bred and used for sports and businesses and hobbies. And there's a lot of collateral damage that happens. A lot of the birds that are being used don't make it home to be used again. They end up either dead or they end up lost, injured, starving. And that's how they end up being brought to an animal shelter. Somebody finds them hiding under their car, or sitting on their patio, just like that dog in the forest that might run to a camper to say, help, 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 I'm hungry. The pigeons, these domestic pigeons, turn to humans for help.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So you started this. You said you loved animals. What was your experience with animals and how were you able to like get something like this off the ground? Because there's a lot of pigeons out there, right? So do you have an aviary? How does it all work?
So my interest, yeah, so I had no special interest in pigeons or special knowledge about pigeons. I had nothing against them. I loved them like all other animals. And I was familiar with the street pigeons, the city pigeons, and I've helped a few of those that were in trouble. Just like I've helped, rescue seagulls that were clipped by a car, or helped a Canadian goose that was stranded in a bad place, or dogs or cats and so forth. When I started, my goal was to help elevate awareness. And so I did information about this particular pigeon that needed to be adopted. Her name was Guadamina. And so I did a profile about Guadamina, and I reached out to our local Northern California parrot rescue, Mickaboo. And they're a wonderful parrot rescue. They take in and foster and rehome hundreds of parrots every year. And they were very kind. They said, yeah, we'll help you. You can be a part of our network. And so that connected me with a lot of other bird people. We call ourselves bird nerds. When a bird gets your heart, it's like you're a goner, basically. So be careful. And we publicized Guadamina, and she got adopted. And then the next one, so they fostered at first I didn't have an aviary at first. They fostered in my downstairs, like a spare room. And it started out small. Again, it was accidental. I did not mean to do this. I was just responding like, these birds need help. And so I was helping them. And I remember one of our first volunteers used to say to me, Elizabeth, 8 is enough. So when we got 8 birds in our foster care, that was her reminder to me to like pump the brakes. Like that's enough. We need to. And now, of course, we have 259 in foster care, and we have placed over 1,000 in great adopters' homes. So be careful what you get into.
Well, it's really true, because a little sneak peek into a previous episode that we did, we got to speak with one of your volunteers, and it is catching. And we have had such a great response to that episode that it has led us to do another episode, because we didn't know. I'm a country kid, I'm a ranch kid, and pigeons are kind of an urban phenomenon, right? And so, at least domestic pigeons. And so it was really eye-opening. And we learned how much support. And you said, there's a network, and a huge network of people now that, thanks to you and starting this whole movement, has grown to help thousands of pigeons. And it's wonderful to hear. And so it's exciting, because we wanted to bring in another voice with some more stories, right? And so we have a friend here who's been awfully quiet so far, right?
I know I talked to him before, and Asher can tell a story. He's good at it.
Yeah. So you said bird nerds, Elizabeth, and Asher, I want to hear a story from you. How did you get started with pigeons? Was this something you go to school, and the school has a pigeon team, right? And so what got you interested in pigeons?
Well, I remember I transferred mid-year 7th grade to Nomad, and I was kind of looking for like a friend group. And when this opportunity to foster these pigeons arose, I hopped on the train just to, I don't know, establish myself with a group. And then they just became something that I really loved, so I continued doing it this year.
That's awesome. So, did you have experience with animals before?
Uh, I have two chickens, so they're kind of like them, a little bit
Okay.
bigger and can't really fly. But nothing like a pigeon before, exactly.
So what's the difference between a pigeon and a chicken? And don't be smart and give me some smart aleck teenage answer. Well, what do you since what's the difference? What
What
between
do you notice?
yeah, what do you notice between a chicken and helping a pigeon?
Well, pigeons, they definitely need less space and less food and water. They make less noise. They're much cuddlier and friendlier than than chickens. Um, yeah.
So tell us a story of just tell us the story about an interaction you had with Orville.
With Orville. Um, that's a
She's
good question.
listening. She's
Oh,
listening. Look at, she's like,
she
what are
is,
you,
she's listening.
what are you going to
What are you
talk
gonna
about?
say? What are you gonna say
You're gonna,
about me?
she's,
Because I'm
she's coming
listening.
up.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah, well, they definitely, Orville especially is really friendly and wants to be around people. So one of my favorite interactions with especially Orville is just like hanging out with her during, well, doing my work at school. It's really fun and helps me do my work sometimes.
So when you come up to a math problem, does Orville kind of help you along with the answers and stuff?
Yeah, definitely whispers in my ear.
So when you're in school, tell us how the pigeon project, like the pigeon team, what do you do? Do the pigeons, they hang out with you? They help you do your work? Where do they live? How do you take care of them? And, tell us a little story about how your group works. You found some friends with the pigeons, right?
Right, totally. So we have actually a aviary outside of our school with this little alleyway, and it's like pretty small, like a shed kind of. It's a perfect size for two pigeons. We bring them in, I think it's twice a week, and we do normal cleans 4 days a week and a deep clean usually on Friday. And the pigeon team works, each person does a day of a week, and then it's usually 3 on the deep clean. So it's quite a large group for a smallish school.
That's
So
cool.
how many
Oh,
people are on the pigeon team?
Um, I think there's about 8 right now. A few people joined and left. Yeah.
they flew the coop. Sorry, I'm sorry. I apologize. Elizabeth, are pigeons, I mean, I could see there would be a wonderful reciprocal relationship between having 4 or 5 pigeons in a school for young students to work with. Are there a lot of schools that have pigeon projects, for lack of a better word? Or is this something kind of new?
There aren't a lot. In the past, the way that schools and young people interacted with pigeons was mostly not on the rescue end, but on the breeding and showing end. So like 4-H clubs
Mm.
would breed pigeons for racing. And some of those pigeons get home and are raced again. And some of those pigeons don't get home. And if they're lucky enough, like Nilla was, when she was grounded and stranded and starving and injured, she got rescued. And so that's how she found her way into our group. Um, the Nomad School, Asher's school, is phenomenal in their conscientiousness. It's not easy. We're very exacting about what these birds need because you have to keep them safe. They're everybody's favorite meal. Raccoons, coyotes, cats, hawks, gulls, ravens, even rats will chew into an aviary and kill and eat pigeons. So they had to really work hard to create this. It was a greenhouse originally. They modified it into an aviary, and they created it. They followed all our directions. They closed up all the gaps so that it was really safe. It wasn't just kind of safe. You know, kind of safe is dangerous, right? And they take really good care. So these birds, even though they're just sitting here so chill right now, Orville's wearing her pants, they're on Asher's shoulder, they can fly, and so can Nilla here. They can fly. So when you're getting them out of the aviary, if you're not careful and you spook them or you get a loose grip and they fly off, they can fly. They're great flyers, most of these domestic pigeons, but they can't survive. And so the minute the domestic pigeon is in the wild sky, the risk clock starts ticking, you know? So the Nomad School has been just phenomenal in taking really good care. It takes a lot of conscientiousness, I think. The birds themselves are easy, but I think the students are challenging. It's a lot to have a whole school that is respectful and knowledgeable and works appropriately with the birds.
So Asher, does your team do any sharing, or do you educate the other students about pigeons, or are you guys in charge, is the pigeon team in charge of informing kids, or how does that work? Because probably other kids are curious, right?
Other kids are definitely curious. We don't really teach them exactly. We just take care of them and bring them in once in a while. To inf I don't. It's just mostly just to take care of the pigeons and bring them in once in a while.
So the other kids in the school, do they have an opportunity to see the pigeons, or is it just the pigeon team?
Well, we do bring them in 2 days a week, and we usually pass them around for, during projects. The pigeon team does get to see them a little bit more often since you do the cleans, but like the alleyway is really accessible, so people see the pigeons all the time.
So Asher, this is kind of a I don't know, a crazy question. And do you know what the word compassion means?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not trying to trick you, buddy. I just wanted to make sure before I ask this question. Do you think caring for a wild or not a wild animal, an animal such as pigeons, do you think that helps build compassion in young people such as yourself?
Yeah, I think it definitely is an eye-opener for all animals that don't live as well as humans do, that don't have like options that humans do. I definitely think that taking care of animals that need help grows compassion.
And Elizabeth has helped us understand that, again, these pigeons have helped humans for thousands of years, and then we just quit. We just said, boop. Were you aware of that pigeon history as you begun caring for these pigeons?
I was not aware until I dug deeper and made my own doc interview movie for
Uh-huh.
pigeons. Up until then I was clueless of how pigeons actually helped humans for thousands of years.
That's super. I think that all schools ought to have 4 or 5 pigeons, and that would help everybody involved. So Elizabeth, you have what, 1,000 pigeons now or whatever, 250 to foster. Um, what if somebody wants a pigeon or a school is interested in replicating this kind of a thing? What do they do? Where do they start?
A great question. So I was just at an outreach this past Memorial Day on Monday and met all kinds of people with pigeons, and we're there at a festival and we're introducing the birds, and everybody is like, what? I had no idea. And then when they meet them and they hold them, they're just really surprised and like, wow, this is it kind of sparks an interest they didn't even know they had often. And one of the guests at the festival said to me, "Oh, well, I'm from San Diego." So I said, "You know what? That's okay. We connect with pigeon rescuers in San Diego. We know pigeon rescuers not only all over the country, but all over the world. This is an issue everywhere. It's not just in the San Francisco Bay Area. So wherever you are watching this podcast from, if you're like, oh, well, you know, I'm in Chicago or I'm in Minnesota or I'm in Florida, wherever you might be, there are domestic pigeons that are still being bred and used and raced and lost. It's not it seems like it's kind of an old-fashioned thing, like, oh, back in the day, but they are literally breeding millions of racing pigeons this year in the United States. And half of those birds won't make it home. And a big portion of those birds could be rescued and saved. A lot of times people don't know too, like dove release for weddings and funerals, those are white pigeons. Either one of these pigeons are the kind that they could use for that. So if you're interested, like we have a great website with a lot of stories, a lot of information. The story of Nomad Middle School is there for anybody who's interested in more information about that program. It's pigeonrescue.org. And we also have a really big, wonderful, active Facebook help group. It's over 30,000 active members. And all day, every day, there are posts. I found a pigeon, what do I do? My pet pigeon is standing on one leg, what does that mean? My friend told me that this is where I should come if I want to find out about how to adopt a pigeon. And we have volunteer moderators who are experts who help answer any and all questions. It's quite an education because every question that comes in, you know, we have to figure out what the answer is. So that Facebook group, if you go to Facebook and go to Palomacy, Palomacy help group, that's like your secret key to everything.
Okay, Elizabeth, I'm gonna be the negative naysayer here. No, we can't have pigeons. They carry disease.
Wrong.
What? A woman
Yeah.
telling me that I'm wrong? Impossible.
Yes, I'm sorry to contradict you, my friend, but yeah, it's common. That's a very common misconception, and it's perpetuated by the pest management industries, which is a multi-million billion dollar, like you'd be surprised at how much money is made from soliciting the opportunity to kill pigeons. The thing is, and which when you read the ads, they'll say pigeons carry 64 different diseases, blah, 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 blah. And it's true. Pigeons can get sick, pigeons can get diseases. What they're not telling you is that pigeons do not communicate their diseases to humans. You are so much more likely, hundreds of times more likely to get sick from your own dog, your own cat, or even a friend. The likelihood of Asher, for example, getting sick from Orville, that's a lower risk than Asher, I'm sorry to use you as an example, getting stricken by lightning.
Watch yourself, Asher.
Yeah, that's how safe pigeons are.
I wanted to say that because I can hear maybe a school administrator someplace going, whoa, no, we can't do that.
Absolutely.
It's spread disease. And I wanted to make sure that was out, that is not an issue, and that there's really nothing there to prevent adopting a few pigeons and teaching how that you know, if you're active, you can solve certain problems to a certain extent, and this could certainly do that. Asher, so last year you got busy and you did a documentary about pigeons. Would you tell us what you did, please?
Well, I wanted to make it known that pigeons were good pets, so I actually interviewed Dion and Elizabeth and put together like a 7-minute video about how pigeons are not actually like, well, rats with wings, instead are like loving pets. Yeah.
How'd it go over?
Hmm?
How did it go over? Your documentary, how was it received? Did you get a
Uh,
lot of comments saying,
Was it popular? Where did you post it? Did
yeah,
you post it on social media or YouTube, or did a lot of people see it? And what was the feedback you got from it?
I didn't get any feedback. It's on YouTube under, I think, Lisa Bishop. But I think it only has like 15 views and no comment.
we're gonna change that, young man.
Yeah, we are too. Palomacy is gonna hype up that link. I saw it.
We are gonna change that.
Yeah,
You're gonna walk around with a head this big because you're gonna be so proud because so many people watched it and are so proud of you. That's
it's
terrific.
it's a really good documentary, Ashley. You did a great job on that.
So
Um,
we'll get the link for that and we can include it in the show notes for everybody watching. But Asher, I want to hear another story about you and your pigeon team, and maybe, how the pigeons have shown you something that you didn't realize about yourself, or how they help with friendship, or something that you learned from the pigeons that you've been able to share with your friends.
Hmm, that's a good question.
Or
Um,
if you think of a story that makes your heart happy.
Yeah, what's a funny thing a pigeon is?
Funny story.
Yeah, funny pigeon things and
well, they do this thing that I think Dion calls pigeon yoga, where they do this like stretches and it looks like a dance kind of. It's
why
really
don't you
fun to watch.
why don't you show it to us there?
I don't have wings.
You don't have wigs. What's something that when you were at school one day, the pigeons did, and you had to tell your parents when you got home? Like
Oh,
you were like, man, this was so cool, or so funny, or so silly, or I have to tell them as soon as I get home.
well, something that's really cool is that they really actually like their house and they really like where they live, and it's a really strong sense of home. Especially like I remember the first day somebody made a mistake and left the door open, and they didn't fly out or anything. They had like a really strong sense of home.
Elizabeth's like, what? Don't tell me that.
Elizabeth just had a heart attack.
I did. You got it on
It was
screen.
like
We're gonna have, I don't know how we do CPR over Zoom, but we got to figure this out really quick.
the net wall was in the way though.
Oh, the net wall was there. Okay.
The second wall.
Yeah.
You know what I hear from the students a lot is about how the pair is so committed and connected and affectionate with each other. So Wilbur and Orville are a married couple, and they spend their time together snuggling and preening each other, and they do this thing, I call it pillow talk, where they just kind of like they're both in the nest and they kind of mumble and moan, like just softly, soft coos and everything. They're singing, they will sing to each other. It's cooing. It's not singing like a songbird. But their affection for each other is really touching and inspiring. And I hear that feedback a lot. People really like to see how, in fact, we literally call it married because they stay together for life, year round and forever. Like it's not just a seasonal breeding kind of relationship. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but pigeons just happen to be very devoted to their mate. If you happen to have a pigeon as your pet, so people ask me a lot, well, if I get a pigeon, do I have to get two or can I just have one? And our answer is if you work from home or you're retired, if you're home, you can have one pigeon. And you will be that pigeon's significant other. They will bond with you, and you gotta spend time with them and connect with them. And you fill that role of providing connection and affection. If you're not home, if you're gone all day to work, to school, whatnot, then you do need to adopt a pair. And they have their life and they're together and they do their thing. And then when you come home, you can join in and be a part of that flock, but they're not just home alone waiting.
Asher, does Orville or any of the other pigeons that you care for, or the other pigeon you care for, do they have favorite people? Do they have certain students that they go, oh, I'm gonna go over to them, and that's my best pigeon sound. Sorry, sorry to all the pigeons out there.
I do not think that they have a favorite yet because nobody spends like 24/7 with them. They definitely recognize us. Like, it's one person. Well, we have to abduct them whenever we want to take them out. And they definitely notice it, and either they come because they think it's food or they run away. But they don't have favorites yet.
Or they haven't told anybody, because pigeons are very diplomatic.
Of course they are.
That's funny. So Asher, tell us something really funny that happened with your pigeons at school one day.
Well, Orville right here does the flamingo pose a lot. He often stands on one leg and tucks the other one under, and we like to comment that he's impersonating animals.
Impersonating flamingos, that's pretty funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But what's the reason they stand on one leg other than impersonating a flamingo?
I don't know like the scientific or psychology around why they stand on one foot. Elizabeth might, if you know.
I could tell you, so it's something they do normally. It's not like they are only doing it because they're injured. Of course, if they have a sore foot, they would do that to reduce weight bearing and pain. But they also do it just with their normal feet. And what's really and I don't know why but it is one of their behaviors, probably because they can, and they curl it up and it's under their feathers, so you don't even see it. And what I always find the most fun about that is if a pigeon is standing on one leg and you put your hand out and they step onto your hand, now they're using both legs. And one of them is going to be cool, and the one that was curled up is going to be super toasty warm. And so it's funny because you've got this this warm and cool pigeon feet on your hand. And maybe they just like to, warm up their little toes that way.
Asher, when you go into the city now and you see a flock of pigeons on the street, or they're roosting in a building and they fly down, do you look at them differently? Do you think differently about them?
Definitely. Before this, I used to think of them, like, not even notice them really. Look over them, just think that they're just there. And now I have a sort of respect for them, living out in the wild for as many days as they do, and kind of like thriving, having a high population, a high like social aspect, being in flocks is really important to any animal, and it's really impressive.
Have you seen a pigeon that you thought you should rescue since you started working with pigeons, like out in town?
I have not, but there is a pigeon that if I knew they need rescue, I probably would rescue them.
Is that a pretty good feeling now to know?
I think Elizabeth can arrange to have you just discover a pigeon.
But does it feel good to know now that you have gotten acquainted with the pigeons? But how does that make you feel about rescuing in general, about keeping your eyes open and noticing animals in need?
It feels great to know that you have this, that you know that you could help rescue animals. Like before, I didn't know I could do anything, especially with pigeons. But now I know that I have that option to help animals in need, which is something I've always wanted to do, is help animals.
That's awesome. So do you feel like you're able to make a difference then by doing that?
I feel definitely if I could help anything or anyone, that definitely makes a difference. Especially people or animals that are in need.
That's awesome.
Asher, you ought to be the poster boy for Elizabeth and her organization because um, you working with these pigeons, I think, I mean, I feel your compassion, your thinking, and in a way, these pigeons have empowered you to understand that you can make a difference out there when you see it needs to be made. And I think that's terrific. And everybody, we're all proud of you, man. You've done great. Just
Thank
great.
Yeah, that's really cool what you're doing, and your friends too. That's a such a neat way that you were able to build a friend group and feel. Do you feel connected and do you feel safe with your friend group now that works with pigeons? Being starting. I know it's hard to start school in the middle of the year somewhere, especially at your age. I used to be a school teacher for kids your age.
Yeah, I feel really great with the friend group that I have right now. And it's really cool that I found them in a way that helps me and helps this guy.
Horrible. It's pretty cool cat.
We call it a trickle up compassion in the sense that pigeons are common, right? They're ubiquitous, they're everywhere. And even in rural Minnesota, I can testify, even if they're not at your barn, there's lots of there's pigeons in the cities, and then there's pigeons being used in the rural areas. So they're universal, and they're something that, like Asher said, we kind of look over, right? They're common, they're humble, so people kind of just don't pay attention. And once they do start to pay attention, they're often amazed. Like you mentioned about the dirty, or the disease, which is very true. That's a common misconception, and we kind of lead with that these birds are harmless. They won't make you sick. They would never be dirty if they didn't have to be. If they're in the city and they don't have clean water, then they're going to be dirty, but they would never be dirty by choice. And so when people start to really learn the truth about these birds that many of us see every day, even if we don't pay attention to them, it opens up a whole new element of your world. And I think people then start paying attention to other things and other someones that they look over. And I feel like if our world was nicer to pigeons, we would all benefit from that. I think all of us would see an increase in compassion all around, because it's sort of the least of us, the eye on the sparrow kind of thing. Yeah, I'm really, really proud of Asher and his fellow classmates and the Nomad School. What they're doing is, and Asher's very modest about it, but they make a big impact. We get pictures that are just stunning from them all the time that we have on social media, and people are amazed, so they've done a lot to generate awareness without even being consciously, pursuing it, just by being friends with pigeons and taking care of them. And they're also providing a foster home for these two pigeons. They're two of the 259 that we have to take care of. So we're really grateful for that help.
That's really cool.
That
Well,
is
Robin, it's about that time. It happens when we have fascinating guests and birds on the program that the time just seems to vanish, and it certainly has today. Robin, do you have any parting questions, thoughts, or comments?
Well, it's been wonderful. And I sense the really sweet, positive, and compassionate energy of the pigeons in the other episode as well. It's just such a joy to have you guys on. And I know, Elizabeth, you mentioned about how people could get in touch with you or your organization or looking for information. If you want to just reiterate that, and we'll also include it in the show notes so that if people are curious or want to donate, I'm assuming it's all nonprofit funded, right? So
Yeah, we're
I
a
shouldn't
charity.
assume, I should ask.
No, no, we're a charity, and yeah, we depend on the generosity of our supporters, basically. Our website is pigeonrescue.org, pigeonrescue.org. And our Facebook help group is facebook.com/groups, GROUPS/Palomacy, PALOMACY. You can find it real easy on Facebook, just searching Palomacy. We've got a lot of people who've told us that they actually joined Facebook to be a part of our group because it's so helpful to them in caring for the birds in their lives.
That's wonderful. Well, we will definitely include all of the information. And Asher, we need to get the link to your documentary because we're going to include that as well. I'm really excited to check that out. And if you are watching or listening today, I really encourage you to check out Palomacy. And they're just doing amazing things. It's really been inspiring. I've learned a lot. I know Steve and I have talked about. There we go.
Pigeon diplomacy. Yeah.
Right. Pigeon diplomacy. I love it. And if you are watching today or listening, because it's on YouTube and Spotify, we appreciate it. And we request you give us a 5-star review and follow us for more amazing episodes, because you never know if it's going to be a pigeon, a bearded dragon, a water buffalo, a tiger, a horse, a dog. You never know what we're going to have next, but it's always something incredibly interesting. And to me, it just touches my heart to hear these stories. So thank you both very much for being on our show today. It's been a pleasure.
Asher, Elizabeth, thank you. And thank both those feathered friends there. And if there happens to be any school administrator out there, I think that this would be a splendid addition, one that you could call your own and make a real impact on the community and on the students, because Asher certainly is a great example of a fine young man. And part of that is due to a bird brain that's sitting on his shoulder there. So anyway, thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, Asher. Thanks, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time on A View from the Summit. Bye-bye. This program is made possible by Summit Animal Health. If you have a dog, cat, or horse with mobility issues, Summit Animal Health has the all-natural, drug-free solution that comes with a satisfaction guarantee. Summit Animal Health products are used by Olympic gold medal equestrians, leading rodeo stars, professional dog trainers and handlers, and people just like you. Whether working companion or couch potato, Summit Animal Health can keep them moving. Check them out online at summitanimals.com. New to Summit? Use the code VIEW15 and receive 15% off your initial order. We'll see you next week for another View from the Summit.